Welcome to El Podcast. I'm co-host Jesse Wright along with Alex Thomas and our sometimes co-host, sometimes guest Maria Rolón Miranda. And we have special guest Abel Man or Abel Ramirez today. So we'll just start with you, Abel, if you just want to kind of introduce yourself. And
yeah, well, first of all, thank you, Jesse, for this opportunity. This will be the first podcast that I'm on. So I really thank you for that opportunity. So a quick background. My name is Abel Ramirez, like you said, Abel Ramirez. I'm 26 years old, and I started doing content creation a few months ago over on Tik Tok, and that went really well for me. And recently I started moving literally the same content over to Instagram, where that account's been growing as well. And I do real estate for a living. So I'm an investor, and I sell real estate in New York. And that's kind of like a 1,000-foot view of Abel Ramirez.
Yeah, and I followed you online. You're absolutely hilarious, right? You're bilingual, and you're sharing things from like all different cultures and what's going on with it with like a great sense of humor, right? And I showed it to Maria as well, and she likes it. And when we were setting this up, I was trying to get her to like help me set this up and do it. And then when I showed her the video, she's like, "Oh yeah, I love that guy." I want to be able to check him out.
That's awesome. Thank you, Alex.
You're welcome, man.
Yeah, I figured humor is always a good way to express yourself and talk about difficult topics in a way that is accepted. I feel like comedians have always done that, where they bring controversial I can't speak right now. Controversial topics, right? But when they do it in humor, people accept it, right? And they get to talk about it in a funny way.
Yeah. Well, for the people that are, have seen your content or are thinking about maybe, getting themselves out there, right, with an idea that they want to express, I want to know a little bit about your story. Like, when did you first get inspired to actually start making content? And what was that decision? Like, when you go all the way back to it, like, I decided to do it. What was that inspiration for you?
So, Alex, we have to go back to 2013, 2014. I was heavy into video games. Like, I was literally playing video games all day. When I was in high school, my senior year in high school, I was going home around 10 a.m. I only had a couple classes. So I had all day playing video games, and that's what I was doing. And I found a community of Spanish-speaking community where they were streaming the video games on Twitch TV. So that really got my interest. And even though I play video games, I was never like really good at playing video games. Like I want to say average. And I started streaming. Okay. I started streaming video games, and that went really well. I started to build a community, and that's how I was introduced to video and online streamings and things like that. And I actually got to work for Blizzard Entertainment, which is one of the biggest names in the gaming industry. And I was a commentator for them. So basically, all that I would do was commentate on live games from pro players. And I did that for a few years, and I actually got to travel. I went to California, and I was in BlizzCon 2016, which was huge for me. I want to say that was the peak of my career. I'm getting paid to do what I love. And that's how I was introduced to video. After 2016, things kind of slowed down for me because I was growing in my personal career. I got married, I had kids, and I just couldn't keep up. There was so much information. Think about any sports game, right? Baseball, basketball. You have to know the players. You have to know their stats. You have to know their performance, how they're doing, who they're good against, who they're not good against. So there was a lot of information. So I would literally spend all night trying to capture all the information from all these players all over the world. So when we had a match or a tournament, I would be able to speak intelligently about the person's skills and stats and whatever. So it got to be too much for me, where it was no longer fun, even though I was getting paid to do it. And I quit. I was like, I cannot do this anymore. And I stopped everything that has to do with content creation. I just literally stopped. In 2019, so I always had social media. And I would post mostly personal stuff or stuff that I found interesting, but it wasn't going anywhere, right? Because it was not relatable. I was just posting whatever, random stuff. Like you post a picture of a cat, or a meme, that was like the typical social media dad, if you will. So my TikTok account only had, I want to say, 200 followers, and those were like, family, friends, people that knew me from before that were following my account. Again, it was just random post. There was one video that I made where it went viral for me. And when I say viral, I mean it's like 2,000 views. Mm-hmm. That to me was viral because my views were like 300, 400. That was my typical video on TikTok. And that video was one that I spoke about being bilingual. And I said something along the lines of, what was it? I care 3 cucumbers. And that's me importa 3 pepinos. So like when you really don't care about something, you say me importa 3 pepinos. And I said, I care 3 cucumbers. The literary translation of that phrase. And that went semi-viral for me, like 2,000 views. I was like, oh my God, 2,000 people view this. And there were comments like, oh yeah, I get it, and I responded to one of those comments, and I spoke half English and half Spanish. And I was like, does it ever happen to you where you speak both English and Spanish, but you feel like you're not good in either one of them? I know Maria can relate because, you feel like you're not fluent in Spanish or English. It's like, what's going on? And that video, again, blew up. It got like 5,000 views. I was like, oh my God, people really do like this bilingual content. And from there, I was like, okay, I was still doing it for fun, like basic, like literally no editing. I was literally recording with my phone on the portrait, making a video and recording myself. It wasn't nothing fancy. And I made a video about Dominicans. And I said, Dominicans are the most respectful people I've ever met. When they see you, they're like, ¿Qué lo que? Dímelo, primo. That was it. That video got 10,000 views. And it got taken down by TikTok. They were like, this video violates something, community guidelines for discrimination. I'm like, what? So I was very disappointed. So I submitted an appeal to review the video. After that appeal was reviewed, they put my video back online. And when they did, it went up to like 30K within one day. Mm-hmm. I was like, what? That really, to me, it was mind blowing. I've never had that audience before. And then from there, it just took off. Like I was literally responding to the comments on that video. I would reply with a video and they were getting 20, 30K views. And that's really how it started. Like really nothing fancy. I feel like most people are just afraid to start because they don't know how to do it. And I think this is true for everyone, unless like you're like Jesse and you went to school and you learned this in school. But for most people, it's a learning curve, right? You start from scratch. Now my videos go more well edited with a more concise idea of what I want to talk about. Before it was just random, sporadic. Like I would just pull out my phone and record. Now I actually have a plan. I add captions. I add color grading. I try to cut scenes and mirror and things like I didn't even know how to do before. I know nothing about video editing or color grading or captions, but I learned that along the way. And I saw that each video I was getting better as far as video quality, content quality, and response from the public. And not only was I reaching now people from the Dominican Republic, now I was reaching people from Puerto Rico, Mexico, and all over the world that felt the same way as I did when you speak Spanish and English. And that was kind of like the start for me, Alex. And I can't say that a single video motivated me to do that, but seeing the growth, and it was really rapid. Like it really grew faster than I could control it. So I had to force myself to study and go on YouTube and learn how to be a better video editor or how to do color grading, because now the public demanded that, now I have a higher audience. I have to provide better quality video. It's not just 200 people anymore. And for me, that was just rewarding because I'm like, okay, I get to make people laugh. Being in America and New York, it's a fast lifestyle where you don't have time to do anything. So that's why you see all my videos are literally like me in the car, because that's the only time I would have. And I'm like, if I can dedicate 10, 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and put out a piece of content, even if it's just 10 seconds or 15 seconds, and that can make people laugh. And it's very rewarding because, I get messages, oh, you made my day. I was really having a tough day. And, I laughed so much with your content. Now I look forward to your next video. And that's really rewarding because I feel like I am making a difference with very to little effort on my part. So that to me is very rewarding. I think that's what motivates me to continue making content.
Beautiful. I appreciate you sharing that. I want to dive more into the fear part of it, because I think that's what holds people back, right? It's the fear of getting started. You know, when you were first putting videos out, was it just an experiment and you were having fun with it and you didn't have fear? Or were you afraid to put yourself on camera and try to record it and put it out to the world? And how were you able to overcome that fear to actually start generating content and feeling confident while you were on screen?
Great question, Alex. You see, I've always been a shy, insecure person. Mm-hmm. I was never comfortable with my looks, and I got braces on. I got them last year. Did not have the greatest smile. If you were to go back and see all my social media pictures, I'm literally like serious. Like all my pictures, I've never smiled. Always been insecure. Didn't talk to a lot of people. That's why it took me so long to learn English, because I wouldn't talk to anyone. You know, I would stay in my small circle and just talk to people online, not via face cam, just voice, like Discord, you know. And I wasn't comfortable with people. All my videos had some sort of filter. I felt the need that, you know, like, you know, when you go to Snapchat and you put all the pretty filters, you know, that make your face look smooth, or, you know, the funny ears and whatever. Those were my pictures. Those were my videos, if any, you know, because I didn't feel comfortable with myself. So I felt like I needed a filter to hide myself behind that filter. What did it for me was after the second video that I made, where I spoke Spanish and English, at that point I'm like, really, people don't care about you as much as you care about you, you know. And if we all understood that, you know, I feel like everyone will be at a different place, because we feel like we're the main character of the movie, right? And all eyes are on us. It's really, that's not the case, because that's the case for everybody. You know, if you're walking in New York City, you see all those people walking, they feel like they're the main character of the movie too. And when you see them looking at you and you're like, oh my God, what are they saying about me? Or what are they thinking about me? They're thinking about something else, you know? And that really helped me overcome that. Now I don't use any filters, you know. I feel 100% more comfortable with myself and being on camera, but that didn't come easy, you know, and you just got to start doing it. There's no way around it. I went skydiving last year, and I did it as an exercise because I'm terrified of heights, like literally terrified. And I'm like, well, if I force myself and I jump out of a plane, when I get down, I'm going to be like, well, I mean, what's there to hold me back to do anything now? I jumped out of a plane and I'm afraid of heights. I cannot stand heights. And that was one of the most amazing experience and life-changing experience I've ever had, because I got to confront my fear. And if you don't confront your fear, you're going to stay stuck in the same place always. So you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. When I moved to the States and I didn't speak English, I didn't know the culture. I didn't know anything, right? But I had to adapt to the change, because if you don't adapt, I mean, we die. It's just part of society, right? Change is needed, but nobody likes change. You just got to start small. People think that you have to go from 0 to 100 in 3 seconds overnight. And really, if you think about it, you start walking when you're a baby, right? You start walking, you fall, and then you get up, and then you're running, and then you fall and you get up. And it's a process, and it takes time. And I feel like people are just not patient enough and give themselves enough credit. You know, someone said something to me that really hit close to home, and it was that there's somebody out there living the life of your dreams with less talent that you have, but the difference is that they're doing and you're not. Like literally, that's the only difference. Less talented people are living the life of your dreams, and the only difference is they're putting in the work and the hours every single day, and you're not. You're just telling yourself, I'm not good enough. I don't have time. I don't have the right equipment. I don't have the money. I don't have the knowledge, you know. And that's really not true, because if you put the work and you put the effort, you can get there. Yes, some people are born with natural skills and talents, but everybody has their own skills and talents. You just got to exploit them, you know, and be brave enough to suck at something new. Because if you never start, you'll never know what you can come out of it. Like, I'm a musician, and I've always thought that if I were to ever blow up in the internet and become a figure, it would be through music. You know, whether it was music production, singing, playing instruments, because I do play many instruments. None of that. You know, look at that. Out of making 10, 15-second videos of funny accents, I got 5.5 million views in the last 20 days.
Wow.
I never thought I could get there, you know, and that's still small compared to other creators, you know. But to me, it's like I would never think that I would reach that many people in such a small period of time, doing something that I would never picture myself doing. Like it didn't, I did not have a plan to get there. It just kind of happened, you know, but it happened because I was exploring a new environment, and I put myself in a uncomfortable position, you know, being on camera, talking to people, receiving negative feedback, you know, but look where it's turned. You know, I've connected with so many people. Look, I'm talking to you guys right now. If I didn't start making videos, I would not be here talking to you guys, you know? So you never know what something could turn into if you never started. And that would be my advice to people that are just afraid. Just start with whatever, like whatever you're passionate about, or, you know, whether it's cars, music, just put out a piece of content and let people, you know, let the right audience find you, because they will eventually. It takes time. I feel like for every niche out there, you can find people, whatever you're into, whether it's collecting stamps, playing Yu-Gi-Oh, playing video games, listening to salsa, there's a niche for every single thing in this earth. And now more than ever, there's opportunities, because online you can reach, I mean, the sky's the limit, really.
Yeah, awesome, man. I thank you again for sharing. I'm sorry I'm taking over, guys. I have one more question for him. I'm excited because, you know, I've been watching his stuff a little bit. So when you're researching, who inspired you as somebody when you were coming up that you were like, oh, this person is teaching me how to do it right? So like if a content creator's out there and they're looking for somebody to be able to teach you how to get started in social media, and I also want to know what kind of equipment that you suggest people get, right? Like what do they get? What package do they need to be able to get started?
Yeah, so for me, that was Think Media. The story of Think Media and Mr. Beast really inspired me, because Mr. Beast, he's literally by Forbes the #1 highest paid content creator of all times. Guy literally makes millions of a single video, but he didn't start there. You know, he started making video games videos and commentating on his YouTube channel. You know, humble beginnings. You know, poor. He was raised poor by his mom. Always relocating, so he was really uncomfortable with himself too, and didn't have a lot of friends because he was always moving around. His mom was in the military, so she was moving around a lot, and he found a community online playing video games, and it turned into, you know, the biggest content creator of all times. Everybody wants to be like Mr. Beast. So he really inspired me, because I was like, if he got there, you know, what says I can't, you know? And then Think Media, because they are probably one of the most educational channels out there that give you the best advice. They also started from scratch, and they'll give you tips on anything: equipment, lighting, editing, color grading, ideas for content creation, how to grow on YouTube, how to grow on Instagram, TikTok, how to build influence with video. You know, Gary Vee is another one. You know, hard work, hustle, put out a piece of content. Jordan Peterson, it's someone I listen to a lot. It's mostly for personal development and psychology and understanding yourself and why you act certain ways. But if I had to name a few, definitely Mr. Beast, Think Media, Gary Vee, and then Jordan Peterson. As far as equipment, it's very simple. Whatever you have. Like literally whatever you have. It's not the equipment, it's the content. You are the product. Now, how you deliver it, that's something different. There's this guy called Alex Hermosi. I don't know if you guys know who that is. He owns a $100 million acquisition company, and he's huge now. He's starting to build an online influence too. He owns many companies, and his videos are literally on a webcam, like one of those old webcams, and he's getting millions of views every single day. Not edited, nothing fancy, just a piece of webcam. Audio is terrible. But people follow him because of the content that he brings, the knowledge that he brings to the table. So that would be my advice. I did spend a lot of money in equipment. I bought a nice camera, I bought microphones, I bought a nice computer for editing. And those were things that I told myself that I needed to start making content. And I don't think I have a single piece of content out there that was made with the camera, my computer, and my microphone. Literally everything is done through my phone, using the front camera because that's the better quality one, not the front one because that's less quality. So I would say if you want to start with what you have. If it's a 720p webcam, start with that. If it's your phone, start with your phone, whatever. But start putting content. Put 10 pieces of content out there on things that you're passionate about, and out of those 10, see which one does the best, because that's how you're being judged, right? And out of that, top 3 pieces of content that did the best, now make 3 pieces of content on those 3 top and see which one does the best. And you'll find that people will find you, really. There's no other way of putting it out there. People will find you if you start putting pieces of content out. And you'll find people that are like-minded. You'll find people that will hate you for what you do. And you just have to get over it because, people are miserable sometimes. And if we were all the same, then this will be a boring place to be. So there's different opinions and different things that people are into. So I would just say, ignore those comments, use it as positive feedback. Like if you get negative comments, try to get it in a positive manner where you can improve upon those, but don't take it personal, and just keep putting pieces of content out because you will find your audience. And once you do, it becomes easier. Like for me, it's easier for me to make a video now because I know that I have a certain audience from Mexico or Puerto Rico or Dominican Republic. Before I didn't know that. My audience might be my friends or my family or some random people from the internet, But the algorithm, the way that it works right now is that it will find people that are into the stuff that you're into. And then it will push your content to those people. And if they like it, then they push it to more people like them. So really the algorithm works in your favor, but you just have to be patient enough to keep putting pieces of content out so the algorithm can push it out to the right audience.
Thank you for that, man. It's awesome.
I mean, Alex, you kind of, put this particular episode together, and thanks, Abel, for that intro. Yep. Really, appreciate your insights, and it's awesome that you've started, a decade ago already, and that you did with 3 kids. I mean, that's super awesome. It just shows you that time constraints, you can get around that if you really want to. But yeah, Alex, what was kind of the focus that you also wanted to have when you kind of contacted Abel and wanted to see if he wanted to join us?
Yeah. And I want to learn what he's doing, but I want to ask him a little bit more about his business, what he's doing with real estate investing, how he got started in that, and what's his niche there? What are you focused on in the New York area with real estate investing?
Yeah, so I got into real estate in 2020, right before the shutdown. I want to say February, March, right before the shutdown. And I did it through online. I was already into YouTube and looking at videos, and it really inspired me. I hold it a full-time job, decent paying job, but I always wanted to be my own boss. And I found that most wealthy people hold some sort of real estate in their portfolio, and that you can become really wealthy in real estate with little effort and basically no education background. You don't need a degree to become a real estate agent. You take the exam, and then you just start, right? So I came with that mentality of I want to grow my portfolio and be my own boss one day. So I got my license. I started selling real estate to the people that I knew, right? And then I was like, well, if I'm an agent, I know what deals are out there, and I can see when a good deal it's available, and I could buy that deal myself and, potentially make money on it. So during the shutdown, I don't want to say the war so that we don't get labeled. The valuations of homes were crazy. I purchased my house in 2019, and by 2020, it was already like 30% up from what I bought it. So I took out a equity line of credit, and I used that money, and I bought a 2-family. So that was my first introduction to rental properties, and I still hold that property, and I'm buying a 3-family right now. So I want to have a portfolio of rental properties in my area, because my area is growing like crazy. We just had news over the weekend that Micron is going to build the 4th largest plant in the world here in central New York. So that's going to bring about 9,000 jobs, and it's going to bring people to the area. So obviously positioning myself in a good place where I hold rental properties and I'm able to provide housing for all those people that are going to be coming to the area. I'm really like one step ahead of the game, but it only happened because I was already in that environment and that business. I was keeping myself informed. So I do still sell real estate. I don't post much about it in social media. I do every now and then, just so that people know what I'm doing, and I might get some referrals off of there. Like I already got a couple of people message me like, hey, I'm thinking about moving to Central New York. Can you help me find a house? So I'm doing it strategically so that I can also provide that service to my audience or anyone moving to the area. But yeah, real estate, it's a great industry to be in. There's ups and downs, obviously, and like every investment, there's always risk involved. But if you surround yourself with the right kind of people and you stay informed, you can really start building wealth from an early age and really retire from it. Because if you think about it, if you hold 10, 15, 20 properties, and people think, oh, you have to be a handyman to get into property management, or you have to know how to fix things. I can't even change a light bulb. Like I grew up in church playing musical instruments. Like I don't know anything about, fixing a toilet. But, that didn't stop me from getting into the business. And now what I do is I just hire someone to do it for me. One thing you got to learn is you got to invest with the people that have the knowledge and the skills. You can do it yourself, yes, 100%, and you might save money, but it's going to take you twice as long. It's going to be twice as bad. So I learned that in the beginning. So I'd rather just pay someone to do it right, faster, and with better quality than attempt to do it myself and, not do a good job. So people need to know that, there's property managements out there that will charge you like 5, 8, 10% of the rent, and they do everything for you. Literally collecting rent, fixing whatever, attending calls. They do everything for a small percentage of the rent. So as long as your profit margin is, reasonable, you can afford to pay a property manager to take care of all your properties. Well, that's kind of like I'm still young in the business. Like I've only been doing it for like 2.5 years. And I'm going to buy my second multifamily now. Like I mentioned, I've sold over $4 million in sales in real estate, and that's really huge in my area because the median house is like 140, 120. So it's not like I'm selling $500,000 homes like California or Florida. Like the house here are really cheap, so you have to sell a lot of houses in order to make it worth your time. But again, I did it with the mindset of I'm going into real estate so I can learn from it, and I can be in a space where now if I see a good deal, I can buy it, and then potentially make money in the future.
Yeah. So I'm trying to give people that are watching a success hack, because the economy right now is difficult, right? But there are certain things, if you play the game right, that work. Does your social media feed into your real estate, and does your real estate feed into your social media, and do they work synergistically, or is everything really a person-to-person network?
I've kept it separate, and I wish that I didn't from the beginning, but I've always kept the social media personality, Abel Man, separate from my real estate business. My real estate business has been mostly peer-to-peer or mouth-to-mouth referrals, friends, family, people that I've worked with in the past, networking locally, working with home inspectors and lenders and lawyers and having them recommend my business. I've kept the two separate. Probably I shouldn't, so that I could reach more people. But yeah, no, there's really no correlation between my social media and real estate.
I got a buddy that actually is a real estate agent in North Carolina, and he'll go on like a hike or mountain bike ride, and he brings his GoPro, and then he puts that footage up on YouTube, and he says he's picked up every one of his clients has actually been from his YouTube channel. And
yeah, there's an app called Clubhouse it's like a podcast type of thing where you can actually join, raise your hand, and talk. I'm on the Good Morning Real Estate, and I've learned a lot from them. And many successful real estate agents are running their business through online influence, really making videos of their daily lives, showing homes or showing hacks or mountain bike, whatever that might be, and picking up clients that way. I mean, that's totally fine. I just never got into doing that.
Yeah, I was also helping one of my real estate friends out with like SEO things for Google, and I was actually surprised at how uncompetitive some of the SEO keyword terms were for real estate in certain markets. I mean, but if you're not really competing against massive corporations, the SEO is a little bit easier to kind of win, dominate in certain markets.
Absolutely. And now with, I don't know if you guys watch Selling Sunset, the show on Netflix. That's bringing a lot of new agents to the industry. Now everybody wants to become a real estate agent because it's cool. You get to drive the nice car, and it's luxurious lifestyle. And really, it's not a reality show. I mean, it's just drama. And not every agent gets to sell a $5 million home every single weekend. Like I said, I'm on the top 50% of my area, but I'm only selling like $2 million of sales volume a year, and when you do the math, really that equates to probably $20,000 a year in commissions. So it's really not a whole lot. And when you put into perspective tax, time, gas, money that you got to pay, your dues to hold your license, and other fees that come into play, if you're not really selling like $3 to $5 million in sales, it's not a full-time gig. You can't really live off $20,000 a year here in New York. It's really not. The cost of living is really expensive, and you have to be making at least 36 to 40 to be in like the low afford a low rent and food and transportation and everything else. So like I said, for me, it's not a full-time gig. It's like a side business. I would love to grow it to where it's full-time, and I'm doing twice as much as I'm doing now. But again, I always went into real estate with the mindset that I'm going to be in the industry so that I can get insider information, right? If I see a good deal, I can buy it and long-term hold, providing housing. Rent has gone up like crazy. Interest rates are going up like crazy. So people cannot afford to buy homes. Therefore, they have to rent. So, I'm already positioning myself in a good place. Plus, many landlords are selling their homes because they got tired of the whole thing with the shutdown, right? People not paying rent. They don't want to deal with it. They're losing money. So now they're losing their multifamilies at a discount. While single family homes are going up like crazy, multifamily are going down. Multifamily homes are going down. So I'm buying at a discount multifamily homes off of landlords that don't want to do it anymore, and now I'll have apartments ready to be rented when people need them. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. There's definitely a lot of ways you could go into real estate. You can go the Airbnb route. You can go the rental route. You can go the flip route. You can go the just selling real estate in general, just making sure that you're working with listings and working with buyers and making like a full-time job. And people do it successfully. I've met people here that are doing it really successfully in the way they run their business. And I guess it's different for everybody, what it is you want to do, whether it's rental, Airbnb, being out there showing homes. It's up to the individual.
Yeah, my dad did real estate, and so he got me into the business, and I was a real estate agent with HER.
Okay.
And I was able to sell some homes to my friends, and I went to school at Hondros College in Ohio, and did it. And then, what I see for you though, I mean, you already like gotten over the hump where you're making sales. It's a compounding thing. Like, if you have one property and then you're going to get two, and then the income from that plus making sales, it's going to start growing and growing and growing. Like how old are you right now?
I'm 26.
Yeah. I mean, by the time you're 40, you can have enough properties and everything that you're going to be able to retire. Like you're on a really, really good track, man. That's
yeah. And that's really what the mindset is, no one starts big. You have to start small with what you have, whether it's selling one house a year, two houses a year, like you said, it compounds, because then a couple of years from now, maybe that person wants to upgrade to a bigger house. So now you're selling their property and buying them a new property. So that's two deals of a past client. Or maybe their brother or sister is getting married and now they need another house. So you get referred. So it's just it takes time. Not everybody grows, like I said, going from 0 to 100 overnight. It takes time. Whatever it is you're doing, it takes time. You just got to be patient.
Yeah. Well, what's really driving you though? Because like you're obviously working hard with video editing. You're working hard with, real estate, investing, and also being an agent, right? You're doing a lot, right? What is the end goal for you, and what's your why?
So my why is really my family. Like I want to spend more time with them. I have 3 kids. And I really want to be there for them. I do not want to be that dad that's always working, and don't go on vacations and don't do anything with them. So that is my why. Like I said, I always wanted to be my own boss. I did not want to work for somebody else that doesn't appreciate my work. And I am bound to get paid by the hour. It doesn't matter how hard I work. I'm still going to get paid the same. So that is the why. I want to have more freedom. I want to be able to travel to more countries and spend more time with my family. Really, that's a goal.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Maria, I want you to chat with him a little bit, because you lived in the mainland for a bit and then came back and then lived in San Diego and some of the places. What questions do you have for him, as a Latin American person, traveling back and forth?
Well, I want to start with thanking you for your description at the beginning and talking about the motivation and how you need to start somewhere and don't let fear stop you from doing the things that you want to do. And because I feel very connected to that and related to that, because I didn't even want it to start this podcast, like be in the camera, because I didn't want to put myself out there. But I got a lot of push from the 2 gentlemen right here. And I did it. And now I feel like more comfortable on camera. I feel like I can do this more often and I don't feel that pressure or that fear. And also like moving to the US, also I learned English and the Spanish speaking part, and having 2 languages in your brain that merge, and sometimes you don't even know what word to say because you don't fully speak Spanish, you don't fully speak English, and sometimes you feel like lost. It was something, so like I relate a lot with it, because sometimes I'm speaking to Alex and Alex, like, I'm like, babe, do you know what this word is? Or how do I say this word? Or how do I write this word? Like, I can know how, like, which word I want, but I don't know how to write it if I'm typing, or I don't know if I read it, I don't know what it means. And it's like a very difficult like situation. And it's like, I relate to you in that sense. Like, we have 2 languages. We can speak 2 languages and we understand it very well, but we have those kind of little problems that we encounter, and a lot of people relate to that. So I wanted to say thank you to speak about that. And also I enjoy a lot your social media and your videos. I laugh endlessly. Like, it's amazing because I relate to those situations. Like one of the videos that you did about the Puerto Rican kids are savage. I was cracking up like for 15 minutes straight. Like, I was like, yeah, that's Puerto Ricans. Yep.
That took some effort. Like I did it all in one breath. If you watch the video, like I said the whole sentence like in one breath. That took multiple times to record it. And thank you, Maria, because this is exactly what I mean. The fact that
Yeah.
we are afraid to put ourselves out there, but then if you don't, you'll never find out what it could become, right? And you can find people that relate to you, just like you relate to me, you know, and think about how many lives you can influence, how many lives you can change for the better by putting yourself out there. So that's amazing. So thank you guys.
And for the people that haven't seen the video, can you kind of give us a quick synopsis of what the Puerto Rican Kids Are Savages video is about?
Yeah, so like I was saying you guys before the show, like I try to put a hook in the beginning of the video to get people to stay and watch the whole thing. So I started with Puerto Rican Kids Are Savage, or can be savage, something like that. I didn't quite say are savage, or they can be savage. So now if you're from Puerto Rico, you're like, okay, what's this gringo going to say about our kids, you know? So I said that I was in Old San Juan, and I was walking, and there was kids playing on the street, and that I approached them, and I was like, hey, shouldn't you be in school right now? Because it was during regular school hours. And then one of the kids, you know, turned to me, and he was like, oh, ya te te pregunto, canto cabrón. Like in a very slang Puerto Rican accent, like, you know, hey, you know, mind your business. Why are you asking me? You know, go back home. You know, I did it on purpose, you know, to do it in a sarcastic way where people will laugh, but at the same time understand the context of the situation. And then people are like, yeah, por presentado. Like that means for, how would you say that, Maria? Like, how would you say por presentado?
Mind your own business. Like,
yeah, it's like for putting myself out there in that position. Like I put myself in that position if I did that, right? So it's like, yeah, you had it coming. You know, you asked them, why shouldn't you be in school? So don't be mad that you got that response, because that's the response you're gonna get if you did something like that. So that is kind of like the synopsis of video, where, you know, I started in English, people don't have a clue that I speak Spanish, and then I automatically switch it to Spanish, full Puerto Rican accent, and and I think that really resonated with a lot of people. So
yeah, I have a Puerto Rican Kids Are Savage story. So on Sundays, our group of friends, we go out and play softball. And like, we just literally, it's like Sandlot. You bring gloves, you bring bats, you bring a ball, you go to a field and you go play. And it's a bunch of gringos. We have 2 Boricua that are there with us playing as well, right? But we're playing, and then all of a sudden this group of Puerto Rican kids come up, and you can tell they're ball players and they came to be on the field too. So how are we going to share the field? They're like, you know what? Let's not share the field. Let's play each other. And these kids played us, and they were nasty. I mean, they were so good. And every time they did something that was amazing, made a trick play or were hot dogging it, they were like standing up and humping the air. They were laughing at us. They were cracking on us. And it was awesome because it was hilarious. And I was like, this is how baseball should be played.
Exactly.
Like, you should have fun. You should talk trash with each other. You should do it with passion. And yeah, these kids like absolutely housed us. By the end of it, we were like, you know, a bunch of teenagers like brought it to us. They were like 12, 13, 14, 15, you know?
Yeah, the one thing about Puerto Ricans is they're very passionate. You know, whatever it is that they're doing, they're very passionate. So, especially if it's baseball, you know, so that's really as expected.
Yeah.
I think it's especially if it's sports. Like, we are passionate about everything, especially sports, politics,
music.
It's like we are passionate, intense.
Yes,
we are that. Like, but I think all Latino culture is like that. Like, I've met people from everywhere, like Mexicans and Cubans and Jamaicans, and like
they go all in. Whatever it is they're doing, whether it's food or a quinceañera, you know, they go all in.
Yeah, we go all in. It's like we're passionate about our culture. We're passionate about whatever. If it's like we're Puerto Ricans, if it's Puerto Rican, we are. You know, we died here. Like this is our thing. And don't tell me otherwise.
Exactly.
I remember one time that Alex and I were talking about salsa, and he asked me about a song or told me something about a song, and I was like, "Yeah, that's from a Puerto Rican writer." And he's like, "No, he's not."
What?
And I'm like, "What?"
No, it wasn't that. It was where did salsa originate. It was where salsa originated, and I wanted to. Yeah.
You told me that it was New Rican or New York or whatever, and I was like.
Started in New York with the Mambo Kings and Tito Puente.
No. Wait.
Rico. Yeah.
Here we go. Let's
I
not
was
get
like,
into
no.
that. Let's leave that for a different topic. Turn into a very passionate discussion here. How did salsa originated?
It's a mix of like Cuba and Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic also. It's like we all like contribute to it.
Right.
So but he was like, "Oh yeah, it came from New York." And I'm like, "No, it didn't. What are you talking about?"
He was
We had
right.
like
I taught Afro-Latin rhythms and dancing for 20 years to gringos, right? So I was teaching them that. Unfortunately, the history got convoluted on the way there, right? Like, and then when you come down to Puerto Rico, it is the best salsa I've ever seen in the world, hands down. And I've been all over the world and seen people dance. You can go to a bar here and there'll be 50 guys that can lead and 20 women that can lead. And the party is so live, it's like better than being at a salsa congress. I mean, it is like I've been a professional dancer, but you got to get ready. Like you got to stretch, you know, like you got to get ready.
Yeah,
like, you can't get
it's real. It's real.
if you're not gonna do it well, don't do it. That's how you go.
That's why I don't do it. I don't dance. I don't even try.
No, I'm kidding. You should try. We're gonna teach you. We're gonna give you a lesson when you.
Well, there you go.
Puerto Rico, just let us right there.
So tell us about your kids. How old are they? And what are they into? What are their passions?
Well, they're still very small. 7, 5, and 2. So they're still trying to figure out like school for the older 2 and things. I know the middle son. I've done some videos with him. He's a lot like me, and he's like my best friend. Really, it's sad to say it, you know. Even though I have so many followers, I have very little friends here where I live. So, you know, I take him with me everywhere. He records for me, cracks jokes with me. So it's when a 5-year-old. Can you imagine? You know, my best friend is a 5-year-old. But yeah,
They're the best.
Yeah, they're the best. They're honest. They'll give you. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, like, do you make more money on being a content creator than you do as a real estate agent? Like, is that kind of your primary source of income?
Oh, no way. No. So I demonetized all my accounts because they were restricting my audience and my views. I don't know exactly why. I think I saw an explanation. I read an article about why that happens. Like if you go monetize your TikTok account and your Instagram account, why they now pay a closer look at your videos and making sure you're not violating any community guidelines. And they do restrict your views. Like I did it twice. First when I reached 10,000 followers, and then again when I reached 50. And I don't think I'll do it again. It really slowed down my growth, and at the same time my mindset too, because every single day now I was looking at the numbers and the statistics, you know, how many views I'm getting versus how much money I'm making. So it went from I'm doing this for fun and reach my audience to, well, let's see how much money I can make on the next video, or why am I not getting views? And it really got discouraging. Like I was making videos 2-3 times a day, and after that, like it went weeks without a single video. Like it completely killed my creativity. It completely killed my motivation to keep making videos. So I turned that off, and it has grown from 50 to now almost 80K on TikTok. Instagram, I started doing literally like 2-3 weeks ago, and now it's at 30+K. So I feel like if I were to look at that as a business, it wouldn't be as fun doing it. You know, I do have other sources of income, but that's work. You know, the online video thing is more fun and connecting with people, meeting new people, networking. So I really enjoy that, and I don't think there'd be a price that I would put on that. If there's sponsorships and things, brand deals that might come with it, like I've already talked to local businesses and people that want to collaborate, that's fine. You know, I don't mind doing that, but I do not plan to monetize any of my accounts ever. You know, even if I'm getting millions of views, it's not worth it. You know, you can get monetized in different ways, like, again, sponsorships and brand deals. And I was introduced to that when I was working for Blizzard, because since I was already commentating on games, I would get free gear. Like, they will send me a brand new keyboard or headset for me to use it in the next video. So I was already introduced to that, where you get brand deals type of thing. And I was really excited about monetizing my accounts, because everybody talks about it, like YouTube and TikTok, and you can get paid to do what you love. But it didn't do it for me. You know, it wasn't even worth it. I think at one point I was making literally like 2 cents per day. And I was like, what? You know, and it killed all my motivation and creativity. So yeah, not near close of compared to real estate.
You bring up an interesting topic. You know, you said you follow Jordan Peterson. Recently, Joe Rogan was being threatened with being canceled, right? Jordan Peterson got taken off of Twitter. Andrew Tate got completely canceled and had people raid his house, you know? So I have a question for you. Like, how do you feel about those situations? Is it right that there's controllers that, you know, are able to censor the content that way? Are people being unfairly targeted? Like, what's your take on that?
The only thing I'll say, Alex, is if you're going to have a space where you can have free speech, you're going to have both sides. You're going to have people that are going to say things that are going to make you uncomfortable, that you don't agree with and that you don't resonate with. And that's fine. You know, people really do need to understand that you may like a Ferrari, but I like Porsche. You know, that doesn't make you my enemy. That doesn't make you a complete stranger to me. Like, you should be able to have your own things that you're into, and I should be able to have my own things that I'm into, even if I'm wrong. Or, you know, nobody has to be wrong and nobody has to be right. You know, that is my way of thinking. And if you start canceling, the message that you're sending is, I'm only going to allow the content that resonates with my agenda or with what I want it to be out there. So I'm not saying I support either one. I'm just saying that there should be a space. And I think Web3 and the new changes and what's happening, it's going to bring that, because the big companies do control everything that I've had videos taken down. I've been quote unquote canceled before on things that I'm like, how? You know, how am I promoting violence or being, racist on the videos that I'm making? Like, you got to put it into context and see the whole thing, you know? So if I see that at my level, you know, I can't imagine when you have millions of followers, you know, and really what it is I feel like it's not only control, but it's a threat, right? Because if you can influence 1 million people into anything, you're a dangerous person, right? If I asked you, would you rather have $1 million or 1 million friends? You know, what would you choose?
1 million friends, man. There's going to be a lot more experience. You're going to have a lot more opportunity with that.
Right.
You're going to make a bigger impact. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, you can tell your 1 million friends to let you borrow $5 and now, you know, you have $5 million, you know, or say we're going to raid or we're going to start a business together. Now you already have a million customers, you know? So when people have massive influence like that, they are a threat to the bigger guys, you know, and they see that and they're like, well, we got to slow down. And that's happened all throughout history. You know, I'm not sure how much you know about the Bible, but that happened with the Jews, right? When they were in Egypt and they started to grow and they became a large population of Jews in Egypt. So what they started doing, killing the firstborn. Any males, they were killing. Because guess what? If you have a whole bunch of males that, you know, all of a sudden don't agree with your politics, they could overthrow you, you know? Same thing happens here in America, you know? If there's a large population of individuals that, you know, are against or for a specific law, you know, they are a threat because they can make change happen. When people come together, they really can make things happen. So when you have personalities out there that have a massive influence in the millions, you know, it's not in their best interest to let them say whatever they want. So what's the easiest route? Just cancel them, and that way they don't get their message across.
Yeah, that's beautiful. My dad, when I was young, he showed me about the book 1984, and he explained to me that the media always has an agenda, but this was like early on. I'm like, less than 10 years old, he's like talking to me about it. So I've always tried to have an understanding of all the points of view and try to find the truth and always look for that, and also try to think for myself. My biggest issue with the world today is the groupthink mentality. How when you talk to people, you'll get the same response from so many people, and groupthink is so strong that it's difficult to have great discourse. When I got down here to Puerto Rico, there was a totally different conversation. There was really a lot of free thinkers here, people thinking in a different way, and the conversations were exciting, But online, it's almost like you're fighting that groupthink mentality all the time. That's really where it lives, and it's a hotbed for it. You were saying like Web3 is a great place where it's changed. There's a new platform called Odyssey. Are you familiar with Odyssey?
I think I've heard the name, but I'm not familiar.
The simplest way that I can say it is it's YouTube, but they put it on the blockchain. And one of the things that they said they're going to do is allow people to be able to post their own content and, be able to have it there. And, it runs under the different type of ideology that they have. So I am excited about things like that, where people are able to speak the way they want to. However, if someone is causing riots in the streets with their message because they have so much influence, I'm also against that. So it's like I don't think you can ever be too far one way or the other. But I think personally for me, censorship is a little too strong right now at this moment, because I don't think Jordan Peterson is malintended. I think he's really trying to help men and women understand a different perspective. And for him to get canceled on Twitter, I was just like, how can you look at this guy if you really look at all of his content and think that he's doing something wrong? I think he's a noble man. He's doing what he believes in.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you, Alex. And like I said, this is a problem, and eventually it will be fixed. There's got to be balance, like you said, not lean too much into one side, and finding the balance will be hard. But it's part of the cycle of life. We've had societies and kings, and you look Rome, when they rule everything, and Spain when they colonize everything, and the latest one, it's the United States, but it will not be like that forever, because there are other kingdoms out there that are growing really strong. You look at China, you look at Russia, there are lions. China currently holds, I want to say, 80 to 90% of the market out there as far as supply goes, and workforce. So, and it's just like Russia, the oil, the crisis that's happening right now in Europe. So you can't really sit too comfortable. Oh, I'm always going to be on the top, because there's always somebody hungrier than you that's coming at you. Right. And I feel like this whole censorship things, it will not last for too long, because eventually people will realize, hey, that is not the truth. And especially now how easy it is to travel and visit other countries, and you get to see it firsthand. It's like, oh, I was told that things were this way, but when you get there, you're like, oh, it's totally different, So again, it can't be forever like that. I feel like this is just the beginning. There's going to be a lot of changes in the next 5 to 10 years. I feel like our generation is going to experience one of the greatest changes ever in history. We're all before the 2000. I was born in 1995, and you guys, I'm sure, were born in that millennial generation too. And you get to see Gen Z and the new generation and technology and Web3 and all the exciting things that are happening in the crypto world. The world as we know it, it's going to change. And actually, 2020 really was a massive stepping stone, and that contributed to that change. It's the first time in history where literally every single country shut down, where everyone was like looking at the news and everyone followed like the same policies. We may get to a place where there is one ruler of the world and everybody follows their policy. Who knows? I'm just speculating here, speaking out loud, but I feel like we're going to experience one of the greatest changes in history. and you have to be ready for that. So that the best informed you can be, and the best way you can prepare for it, the better way you're going to be.
Well, I mean, that's what, Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum want. I mean, they want to be the de facto, ruler of the world.
Right.
And I think, a lot of the policies that, stemmed from the lockdown were through the World Economic Forum and a bunch of, NGOs or non-government organizations and non-elected people just kind of exerting their wealth and influence. And I think we've, it's just I think the wealth inequalities and all these policies, like I think each country should be able to make their own decisions, not have some one ruler for the entire world dictate what everyone should do.
Yeah, because Jesse, what's good for you might not be good for me. And people need to understand that. So something might make sense for me to do, but it might not make sense for you to do. Like if you were to try to do my content now, right, in Spanish, probably it's not going to work out, right? So we have to be realistic when it comes down to that. And just going back to the building influence online, whatever it is you're good at, start putting yourself out there. You're going to find people like you, like-minded people. And even if you can influence 10, 20, 100 people, we're not talking thousands and millions, but if you start a business of selling cookies, right, and you have 20 faithful customers that buy cookies from you every single day or every single month, that's huge. So you have to think about that.
What do you think about, like you're saying, the algorithm will share your content to like-minded people. I think that's kind of one of the reasons for why people are so polarized nowadays is people aren't getting a diversity of thought or opinions. They're getting fed the exact same things that they think, or getting fed the videos of people that they agree with or think exactly like them. And instead of being shown kind of a plethora of things that they, wouldn't necessarily normally be exposed to, but probably should.
Yeah, that is a tough question, Jesse, because on the one hand, like you said, it's pushing your content to like-minded people, which is eventually what you want, right? You want to be sharing if you're selling, or if you like salsa music, you want to be sharing salsa music with people that like salsa music. But at the same time, like you said, it isolates people from other like music genres, and I feel like you should be open-minded for all of those different opinions. And there shouldn't be like one always right opinion. Like I was saying, if you like salsa, good for you, that's good for you. But maybe I don't like salsa. I like reggaeton, and that's fine because we're different people. So I feel like the algorithm, it's good and bad in that way. It's good because it's going to push your content to the people that you want to reach. Like if you're selling, for example, chocolate chip cookies, like going back to the cookies, you want to sell it to people that actually want to buy it, not to people that don't want to buy it, because otherwise it wouldn't make sense for you to start that business. But on the other hand, there's a massive audience out there that have never tried it, that if they were given the opportunity, maybe now they're like, oh yeah, I actually do like that. Let me buy it from you. So yeah, there's a little bit of mixed feelings about that.
Yeah, and I also find it interesting how, like you have to change your behavior based on the algorithm. Like, you said it's easier to share content if you don't monetize it, but then, the platforms are getting a bunch of minions for free to do all the content for them, and then they're not rewarding them. And then if you decide to actually try to monetize it, then you have to jump through hoops, and then possibly, like you said, later on with some of the examples you provided earlier, then have your videos demonetized because they said, that you were racist or whatever.
Right.
Some, without actually having any proof or really any reason, just, you violated community guidelines, whatever that means. And those community guidelines, of course, can change every single second of every single day.
Yeah, it's definitely tough. Like I literally have one video taken down where I showed a fake gun, and it was talking about Venezuela. And that was months ago, and that video was doing really well, and it got taken down. And to this day, I have not been able to, get it back. They said they violates the community guidelines for promoting violence and gun violence. And it's like, dude, it's a fake gun. And I'm teaching the slang used in Venezuela. Like, how is this violating community guidelines, So, yeah, you can get canceled at any time and lose everything. That's why you got to look at different ways of making money if that's what your goal is. You know, whether it's through brand deals or creating your own brand. Really, you are the product, and you have to understand that, and you have to sell yourself to people. If you put all your trust into the algorithm and monetizing your videos for views, if they take that down, then you're left out with nothing.
If you're going to say something, Alex, what were you going to say?
The algorithm responds to you, right? And so if you are responding to outrage marketing and you're upset about what you're viewing, but you keep viewing it, you're going to get more of that. But
Right.
if you respond to things that you're feeding you and feeding your mind and feeding your goals, the algorithm's going to respond to that. So instead of letting the feed control you, you have to control your feed, right? You have to be like conscious and aware of what you're doing. And I think that's really important. You know, recently I went down a rabbit hole because I've always been a left person, right? But I was like, wait, I'm so left, I might be being controlled. So I started looking at content on the right, right? And I wanted to be able to get more information from the other side. Now my whole feed is everything on the right, and I'm like, oh man, this is not what I planned for, like, you know. But I'm excited to have the conversation because I want to understand people. I want to understand where they come from, what makes them tick. I want to, be able to be there and then take those conversations and compare it with reality. And what I found is in reality, the conversations are so much better than they are online. In reality, like people are very peaceful and unified and want to talk, but online, it's not that way. It's just conflict and confrontation all the time.
Like Alex, for example, say that you read an article about me and you hear about, oh, there's this gringo guy in New York saying that Puerto Rican kids are savage, and they make a whole article about me. You already picture me as a mean gringo that hates Puerto Rican kids, right? And there's so many labels put on myself, and now you actually create an image of myself through that article or video that you watch, right? But then say you met me in person and I actually explained to you what I meant, and now you get my point of view, my perspective. It's totally different, right? And I feel like that's what we're missing nowadays. You get to hear from one or two sources, and they paint whatever picture they want to paint, and you are to accept their interpretation of that painting. You don't get to make your own judgment or understanding of what actually took place because the picture already painted for you. You know what I mean? So I feel like we're missing that, and we're not having the conversations and the discussions and where people are coming from. So since that's missing, then that's why there's so much hatred happening right now and division between racial groups and ethnic groups and left and right. And, it's just crazy.
Yeah. Well, in a real estate deal, you do due diligence, right? You don't just go, oh, that looks like a great property, I buy it. You want to go check it out. You need to go and have an inspection.
Right.
You need to know the history of the property. You need to talk to former owners. And once you find out the full story, that's a good deal. It's the same thing I do when I meet a person. If I hear something that's outrageous, from a person right away, I want to know what's driving that. Like, what trauma did they experience to be able to get to that place, right? How are they working to be able to solve it? And I want to understand the person right away. But unfortunately, right now, there's a lot of generalities.
Yep.
If you are just from this place and you are of this age and you're of this political ideology, well, then you must be bad because I already have assumed it about you instead of digging deep into the person. And I think that's the one thing that has to be changed is we got to get to the content of people's character, right? How Martin Luther King used to say.
Exactly.
And get really down to it. And it takes time to be able to get there.
It does. And hopefully having these discussions and like I said, putting yourself out there and talking to people, we can change that. Because I believe we have the power to do so. We just got to do it,
Absolutely.
Yeah, like I said, I think, like you said it right there, like it takes time to do so. I mean, people will read some flashy headline, and then if you read the actual article, the article says the complete opposite.
Exactly.
They just want, you'll hear people will say something or whatever, and you're like, well, did you even read the article? They're like, oh no. I'm like, well, if you read it, like, it's not
right. You would get the whole story.
Yeah, but to me, that's like, I mean, what do they say the average attention span of an adult is now? It's something like 7 seconds, which is pretty much the attention span of a goldfish.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even that. I think it's more like 3 seconds or 4 seconds, something like that.
3 seconds. Yeah, it just keeps shrinking. When I'm like, if you read the headline, at least you got to skim the article to see.
Mm-hmm.
I have a master's degree in health and science and fitness, and I read a lot of, or especially for my master's, I read a lot of scientific articles, and you'll read the abstract, which is just a quick summary of the article or of the research paper. And then when you read the research paper, generally the summary and the actual conclusion don't even match up. And then like I'll see like this, like certain study was, is quoted by a mainstream media source, and it's like, well, if you read the study, it didn't say that.
That's why when people when they read a book and then they watch the movie, they're disappointed because the what they're seeing in the movie doesn't quite match to what they read. And the truth is, our perspective of everything comes through two little pieces of things like we call eyes, right? And everybody has their own eyes and their own understanding. So you might have a bigger imagination than I do. So when you're reading a piece of content, you might get an interpretation different than what I do, So I agree with you there, Jesse. Those summaries, I'm guilty myself because of lack of time. I oftentimes just go to the headlines and the summary, but then you miss out on so many pieces of content that are important to be looked at before you make a conclusion.
Yeah, I mean, I was reading this one review by this hot tub company, and they're talking about how hot tubs are scientifically proven to cure all sorts of muscle ailments. So then I read the studies that they referenced, and they were referencing hot packs. So how do you compare a hot pack that you put on your body for 8 hours, which they read, versus sitting in a hot tub for 20 minutes, and the hot tub is nowhere near as hot as the heat pack. But then that thing gets cited by other people, and it just I just want to. You could do that for any example, but it just spirals out of control, and that becomes the new reality.
I agree.
Mm-hmm. So Abel, I love comedy. I love comedy so much. I watch it every night. I stress out about business all day, and then I fight with people about social issues in Puerto Rico all day. Okay, and then at night, the way that I chill out is I watch comedy. I watched so much comedy that we went to New York, and there was a little comedy club in Manhattan. What was it called, babe?
It was the comedy. I think it was
called the Comedy Club.
I probably went to that. Yeah.
I knew the lineup that showed up right at this little 50-person club, and I even knew their jokes. I was like, "Babe, da 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 da." Like that's how much I'm into it, but I'm not funny. That's the problem. I just can't. Nope. I can't get it. So what is your comedic formula? Because you have something that is triggering people. Right. And then you do it every time. And that's what's really great about your content, I think, is that you figured out a formula. You keep it the same every time, and it works and it works and it works. So what's your comedic formula, man? How do you put that together?
Wait. Before you answer, he wants to be a comedian. He tries hard.
Okay.
He tries very, very hard.
It's bad.
He watches comedy.
I'm trying to figure out your
comedy. Every day, literally every day. He's wind down, sit down 11 midnight, here home. He puts he has watched every single comedy show that it's on Netflix. Literally every single one of them. So I'm and he's making jokes, trying to make jokes, and I'm no.
So Alex, one thing I'll say, obviously I'm glad that you bring that up because I do love comedy too, and I feel like everyone should at least consume some type of comedy as part of their daily routine or weekly routine because laughing, releases the oxytocins and it's able to help with stress, get you in a better mood. There's a lot of health and physical benefits of laughing and just being able to have a good time, right? So I'm glad that you do that. To me, I'm not a comedian. I never intended for my content to be funny. Let's just say that right off the bat. So what I'm going to say is my 2 cents of what I think this is. So I think it's the delivery. It's not the joke, but the delivery. Because there's some really funny jokes out there, but if the comedian doesn't deliver it right, you're not going to laugh. So what I try to do is, I am already putting myself in a position where I'm going to have a strong delivery because I'm going to do it in a totally different language and a totally different accent. So I find a somewhat real life scenario, right, of a story, and then the punchline, what I call the punchline. So I structure it this way. I have a hook, right? It's a statement where I say Puerto Rican kids can be savage, for example. That is the hook. Then I have a build-up story to that. Oh, I was walking in Old San Juan and I saw kids playing on the street. They were supposed to be in school, and I asked them, shouldn't you be in school? That is the build-up story, right? So now there's a question, there's a statement. People want to know now the outcome, right? So what is the outcome? That's my punchline. So the punchline is in Spanish with Puerto Rican accent, using Puerto Rican slang words that are literally destroying this person that is asking that question. So if I were to just write out the joke on paper, it's probably not even funny, you know? And it's not even a real or a good story either. But it's the delivery. You know, it's how you deliver the punchline that makes people laugh. So that would be my only tip that I would give you, Alex. Figure out a way of making your punchline the best possible, whether it's exaggerating physical movements, you know, or in a funny voice. I don't know. You got to figure out what works for you. But the punchline, it's the most important thing, the punchline.
Impersonations with higher energy, and you bring it. And so you're having you change character while you do it. So then it throws you off.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to practice, man. I'm going to practice.
Well, thank you.
So again, you know, it's not the joke. It's the delivery.
I'm going to be the audience to all this practice.
One thing too, Alex, I mean, it's hard to find this content in English. There is a freestyle tournament. It's Red Bull Batalla de Gallos, and it's freestylers from all over the world. They battle, right? Freestyling. And then it goes to an international tournament where, you know, you're the champion, and it's all freestyle. I consume a lot of freestyle. I'm literally driving and consuming freestyle because freestyling has punchlines. Have you seen the Eminem movie?
Yeah, 8 Mile.
8 Mile, right? That movie. So, you know, if you looked at that iconic scene where Eminem beats the other guy, right? It was through delivery and punchline. It was one punchline after punchline, punchline after punchline. So that is what I'm trying to apply here. So if you always thinking about a punchline and then you figure out a way of delivering it, you know, you're gonna crack. You're gonna be able to do it. Trust me.
So you construct it from you reverse engineer it. You start from the punchline, have a great delivery, and boom, there it is.
Yeah, like literally, that is how I structure it. I start with the punchline. Like if I get an idea, like I made a video yesterday. For some reason, it didn't do well in Instagram. Excuse me. It only got like 10,000 views on Instagram, but over on TikTok, it's blown up. I think it's up to 200,000 views with like over 1,000 shares. And I was literally showering, and it was actually a recycled punchline that I've used before, where I'm talking to my Mexican fiance, right? And she says, "El que quiere azul celeste, que le cueste." And what it means is if you want light blue, well, you got to work for it, which makes no sense in English, but it rhymes in Spanish. So like if you want something good, you got to work for it. So that was my punchline, you know? And then I built up a story around that. But I start with the punchline because I know that's what's going to make the video funny and make people laugh. So if you reverse engineer it, you know, you might be able to come up with better jokes and better delivery. That is my tip for you.
All right. Well, I'm going to need that. I'm getting a lot of hate online right now. I got 14,000 views with a tweet yesterday.
I will say something though. Your wife is probably not going to be the best critic, you know?
Yeah.
Look, she's already giving me the looks. So try to find people outside of your group to give you the feedback, okay? Because my wife doesn't find my TikToks funny at all. None of them.
Like, oh, here it is again.
Right. She's like, how can people laugh at this? Like, you suck, you know?
Wow.
So before we can conclude here, does anyone have any final concluding marks? I know that Maria and Alex have a meeting they got to run to in about 10 minutes or so.
Yeah. I don't know, Abel, like, you know, I personally appreciate you jumping on here with us and sharing things with us, you know, and I hope in the future, we can do this again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Be able to chat more and be able to follow your career as you rise. You've already gotten traction. You're already there. And, it's exciting to be able to meet you, man. We've met through the online world, right? It is actually connecting people and bringing them together, So here we are. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I love to see more
Let's
of your
make a
content,
collab.
please, Jesse. And I think I subscribe to your YouTube channel, so I wanna see more podcasts, more content. Take clips and start posting it literally everywhere. YouTube Shorts, Instagram, TikTok. You'll be amazed with one piece of content how you can recycle it and reach massive audience with something that you already created. And you don't have to get fancy. Literally, like you chop off like 1 minute, 15 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 seconds. And then people want to watch more of it. So they go to your channel and then want to watch the whole thing because of that one clip. So yeah, I'm excited. Thank you guys for having me on. It was a lot of fun. I look forward to meeting you guys in the future and seeing more of your content. So thank you.
Definitely.
Yeah, thanks so much as well. Yeah, thanks for joining us, and thanks for being a sub.
Yeah. Small beginnings, man. Just got to start.